So Stranger Things is done, and honestly, I feel kind of mixed on it. I felt like starting off with some of the positives that I had for this. I felt like that, um, just as you would kind of like expect. I really enjoyed the production value of this. I really like the visuals of this, just the sheer scope and the spectacle of it. I really enjoyed. I just think everyone did a phenomenal performance. I do think that it is a finale that essentially just played everything generally quite safe. Um, and I felt like it was very kind of linear in terms of how it kind of played out. Um, I do feel like that there was just this. Um, it was a little bit too straightforward. There was some sort of um, little um, need in their plans. There was these kind of you knew that everything wasn't going to go according to plan, and there was going to be having to be all these little pivots. That you had the military in pursuit, you had Vecna having to change his plans and kind of get in the mind of Harper to kind of like derail their plans. So you had all of these kind of pivots, which was kind of like lacking a little bit in the last few episodes. So it was really good to get that back. But I do think that this finale suffered from a lot of the things that were present in volume two of season five, which was just that it felt like that there wasn't really, well, all the need for any sort of intensity and any urgency was just kind of broken up by all of these little sentimental monologues, and it felt like it was just always enough for everyone to have a monologue here, although it was like literally the finale, and they were just having this big grand battle, and and everything was just kind of like coming crashing down, and but yeah, there was just always those times to take a pause and take his monologues. And like I said before in one of my earlier reviews, I think of way back in season one, I think that those sentimental moments are a significant part of the show. I think they're a big part of what makes the show that great. So I think that there's real there's times where I really enjoy watching those little sentimental moments and those little, sweet moments between the characters. But yeah, I just don't think that there's a time and a place for it, and I just don't think that necessarily in the finale there was necessarily any need for it, especially when you're reserving at least 40 minutes of your the end of your episode for all of this, which is essentially going to be epilogue. There's all the time to throw all of those little sentimental moments into that, by and large. But this just seemed to be really kind of littered constantly throughout. For the first half of this finale, it seemed like I did like 10 minutes of action didn't go by, and before it was broken up by this sort of monologue. I do think that Vecna's the big showdown between Vecna and 11 was over a little bit too easily. I would have maybe liked some way for Vecna after being impaled to kind of resurrect themselves, and not necessarily resurrect, but get that kind of like second wind, I guess. Somehow I felt that there was maybe a little bit more back and forth. And I feel like there was time for that, especially like I said, seeing as you've got like 40 minutes of epilogue at the end of this episode. I figured there was a time for just to trim like 5-10 minutes off that epilogue just for like a more kind of bigger, grander battle. I do feel like we got a little bit of origins for Vecna's story here, which I feel kind of mixed about, because I think that what the explanation we got of the, like a Boy Scout in the cave and the Mind Flayer in the briefcase, just finding the right kid to kind of like latch onto. I was fine with all of that. I was fine for all of that explanation for Vecna's origins, but it did answer a whole load of other questions. I was like, well, who's this guy? Who's this guy with a briefcase? And, we know that there's now just this big world before Vecna and the Upside Down, about the Mind Flayer, and there's all of this sort of unexplored territory. And I know that they're planning on branching into spin-offs, so maybe that's kind of its point. But yeah, it does sort of leave things dangling a bit. To get to one of the more controversial moments of the finale, we do get one definite character getting killed off, which was again a very safe choice, because I didn't really hate this character as much as a lot of the internet did, but I totally understood the hate. But yeah, I never kind of hated that character as much as maybe the internet kind of like wanted me to. But yeah, it was kind of like a very safe character to kind of like kill off, I guess. The other one was obviously 11, which again I feel mixed about, because on the one hand, I understand that there was a need to kind of bring some closure to it. I knew that there wasn't. I just didn't feel though there wasn't necessarily a need to kill her off, at least in the way that it's kind of done. In this idea of, well, there's a choice, that we can just continue fighting, we can continue running from the military, but we're not going to, because I don't want that. I want to kind of like end it all now, because I don't want that, and you have to kind of like respect that. I just felt that I was kind of taking that sort of moral of, parents need to learn to let go, into a much murkier kind of direction. Because like I said, I understand the need that maybe if you had gone that way, where they could just keep on kind of running from the military, it's not a sort of like an ending that you kind of want in the finale. You want a specific ending, or kind of like bookend. So I kind of like understand why they didn't, but yeah, I just kind of felt that there was a better way to go about that. If you were even going to write 11 out of it, there was just maybe a more satisfying way that you could have done that. There was a way that you could have that was maybe a little less controversial, perhaps. And then so yeah, we kind of on that note, we obviously got a tease with Mike's theory as well, about maybe 11 is still alive. Some people kind of saw this as a bit of a cop out. I was fine with there being some sort of like ambiguity to it. There is a kind of a part of me with the way that it kind of plays out. In a way, I kind of hope that they don't do a sort of like an 11 reunion type thing, some like several years down the line or whatever it's going to be. Because in some ways, I kind of feel like I would make it worse. You know what I mean? I would kind of make it worse, where it was sort of like, she's just been happy living away, and she just sort of comes back all of these years and has just kind of left everyone to think that she's dead. Especially with like Harper, the poor guy who's already lost a child. Yeah, it just wouldn't kind of sit right with me. But yeah, I the as for the other aspects of the finale, we got we have to talk about Nancy Whelan being kind of like Rambo, which was kind of like a bit of a guilty pleasure of mine kind of thing. I just thought it was really kind of funny and just how kind of like silly and over the top it was, where it was basically we just had like Nancy Whelan, who like suddenly had like seemingly no training or whatever, was able to just go through this military camp and just take people out, and was just firing these machine guns that were nearly the same size as her. I just got a kind of a guilty pleasure kick out of it, so I was kind of like down for that. The moment where Winona Ryder starts basically just turns around to Vecna and says you just effed with the wrong family and just starts decapitating him, I thought was a real badass moment. I thought that was really great. So well, yeah, overall, guys, a real kind of mixed bag, really. Yeah, just not up there with one of the big disappointment finales. It's not up there with Dexter or Game of Thrones or anything like that. But yeah, I did feel like this finale was lacking something. I did feel that there was a bit too much monologue. There was a bit too much epilogue. It was a bit too pedestrian, I felt. Although, like I said, I was entertained throughout. I enjoyed the visuals, the spectacle of it. But yeah, I did feel like it was a little bit kind of pedestrian. So in that sense, I kind of like wanted a bit more. But yeah, so that pretty much concludes it. So yeah, thank you guys for taking the time to watch this video. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Please feel free to let me know down in the comment section about what your own thoughts of this finale was. And as always, I will see you guys on the next video, and wish you all guys a happy new year. You guys take care.